Hello, and welcome to the Enthusiasm Project. My name is Tom, and this is the show where I don't have a tagline about what the show is yet. But if you've been listening to the last few weeks, then you know that that's part of it, because the whole point of this podcast is to try and figure out exactly what I want the podcast to be. And today is kind of really no different. There's a few things that I wanted to go over and explore and talk about today, but we'll just kind of get into it. I'm trying to figure out the best way to go directly into it. If you didn't hear last week's episode, I really liked it. I had Heather Ramirez, also known as Heather Just Create, also known as my wonderful girlfriend. Girlfriend. She was on the show, and we had a really awesome conversation about how she decided to leave a very successful traditional career and to do something on her own, because she felt that not only was it the thing that was going to make her the happiest, but it was also like the best use of her time and wanting to take charge of her life and her destiny. And that's something that I've talked about on a couple of the past episodes, because that's my main thing. And so I don't have a tagline quite yet for this podcast, as I'm sure that you know, where it'd be nice to be able to say, welcome to the Enthusiasm Project, the show that blank, but I'm not there yet. And maybe that's okay, because the real goal here is to sort of explore a little more in depth some of the things that I talk about on my YouTube channel, The Enthusiasm Project, and some things that I don't. But it's really important to me that the whole process and the whole thing is really organic. And so the main goal, and if you kind of have been listening to the podcast, the main goal was that it's not like a YouTube channel. It's different. It's longer. It's more in depth. And for me, in a lot of ways, it's really kind of personal and therapeutic. And pardon me while I adjust the microphone. And my goal is that by me kind of going through and talking about some of these thoughts and ideas, that it will also then become relatable to you. And so through that, that's where it's going to provide value to a listener. And that's the whole point of why it exists in the first place. So there's a few things that I wanted to go over today, which is great, because I got a couple emails this morning that were perfectly in line with exactly what I wanted to talk about. And I'm also still figuring out the whole process for the podcast. So what I can say is I really like doing the podcast. It is terrific. It's so much fun to be able to do this, and I really enjoy it. And I'm really excited to keep doing it. I loved having Heather on as a guest last week, and I hope to, have her on a lot more. She's sort of like the guest I have the easiest access to, but fortunately she also has, some of the best insight and knowledge, and I just really love having her on as a guest. But I also want to be able to have other people on as well, because I think talking about these themes in a conversational setting with another person is really a cool thing to do. And it's cool for me, and it's great for the other person. And I think that it provides some really cool, really good, valuable, insight for people who are listening. So that is, how I feel about the podcast right now. And I bring that up because I have made my first major investment in podcast specific gear, and I wanted to kind of share that in case things sound a little funky. But I haven't been, and this is not in any way sponsored, like that doesn't happen. There's no ads on this podcast at all. But this is this is going to sound like an ad, because honestly, I haven't been this excited about like a product or a piece of gear in the longest time. I don't really know when. I haven't found anything that was such a game changer in so long. So I'm still learning how to use it. But today's show is the first show that I'm recording using the Rodecaster Pro, which is this super cool, like all-in-one podcast / radio show, little like studio mixer. It's incredible. So when I started the podcast, just to kind of give you some backstory, and this is sort of the most important thing too from this, is I have seen in a lot of the Facebook groups and subreddits and whatever that I'm a part of, a lot of people want to start podcasts, and they try to come up with their idea and they try to plan the whole thing out. And every once in a while, I'll see a post that says, "You guys, I'm ready to start my podcast." And I click on it thinking, "Oh, that's so cool. Like, I can't wait to see what this person starts with." And they go like, "Yeah, I got all the plans down. I think I'm going to be ready to record in 3 to 4 weeks." And, there's an infinite variety of podcasts out there. And if you're doing something that's like super in-depth storytelling or really polished journalism, something like you'd find on, This American Life or Serial or those kinds of things where you can't rush it, and it's really a highly polished, highly perfected art form, those things are going to take a little bit longer. But if you're somebody who wants to have a conversation or share some thoughts, oh my gosh, just literally just jump into it and start doing it. There's no better way. I was talking to Heather last night and we were talking about these kinds of things, and like you could practice if you wanted to learn how to swim, you could practice your swim strokes in theory on land all day long. You could, lay down on top of a stool or a bench or whatever and practice your form. But it's not going to be until you just jump in the water, thrash around a little bit, and then get your bearings that you're actually going to be able to swim. And that's kind of that's the case with anything. I mean, making YouTube videos, making anything. And so for podcasting, I think a lot of people who might listen to the show are sort of interested in the idea, or people who make stuff and maybe have thought about it in the past. And the best thing I could say in the whole world is to just jump in and do it, even if it's imperfect and even if you don't know what it's going to be, because that's the best way to start. And so for me, I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to like it. I wasn't even sure if I could, have something to talk about every week, but turns out that's not a problem. And but I didn't want to spend any money on it. I didn't want to have to rely on anything like that. So I just wanted to work with what I had already. So what I've been using up to this point has just been, for a microphone, I've been using the Rode VideoMic Pro that I use in all my videos. So it was something that I've already had because I use it with my video camera and I use it in my videos. And then to record, I've just been running that into my Zoom H4n, which is a little handheld pocket recorder that I've had for many, many years. And it's just the original one. It's been around forever. And that's a great setup. People use the Zooms for podcasts all over the place. And then I was just taking the files, putting them into GarageBand, editing them a little bit, adding on the intro music and the outro music, and then uploading them to Anchor. So it was a pretty simple workflow and it worked really well. All the way until last week when I wanted to have Heather on, because that involved adding a second microphone, which the Zoom H4n that I was using has 2 microphone inputs. So it wasn't really a problem. And a lot of people use those for multiple mic setups. I think for like the first however many hundreds of episodes of the Nerdist podcast, that's what Chris Hardwick used, to interview some of the biggest people in the world, or biggest, most well-known celebrities in the world. So there's nothing wrong with it, but it definitely doesn't give you the control that I wanted over your sound and over your levels. And what I didn't want to do was have a conversation and have to be fidgeting with this recorder the whole time, because it's just me recording everything. And so what I did for Heather's interview was I borrowed a Zoom H6, which is a pretty awesome little thing. And in terms of small podcast gear, it's probably the best out there. It's a little handheld multi-track recorder. It's got this really nice color screen so you can see everything on it, all your levels. And it has 4 XLR inputs. And so each XLR input has its independent volume control. So it's really easy to set your levels, gets great quality. It's very low noise. Just hit record and you're off and running. But then I still just threw that into GarageBand and edited it together. And that worked fine, but I don't have my own Zoom H6, and I do want to have more, guests and things on the podcast. So I knew I was going to need to find a way to do that more effectively. and the H6 runs like $350 to $400, and I just didn't want to spend that much money on something that wasn't really going to improve my workflow. So here's what I'm getting at. If you've been, following my podcast struggle, which is the whole thing with the podcast for me is I want it to be about the ideas and the thoughts and the things that I am expressing. I don't want it to be another in-depth process to produce. And that doesn't mean that I don't want it to sound good and I don't want it to be good. But when I make a YouTube video, there's so much work that goes into a YouTube video, in addition to, just coming up with the idea and planning everything out, the filming, the editing, prepping things to be on camera, because things have to look nice and I have to look halfway decent. And, that kind of stuff takes a long time, and it's really fun and I really like it, but I couldn't add another one of those types of projects to my schedule because it just would never get done. And so I need the most minimal workflow that you can imagine, which is what I've been doing with the podcast, because the editing takes, under 20 minutes, and then I can just upload the thing. But here's where things get terrific, because Rode came out with this Rodecaster Pro that I mentioned, and that's what I ended up buying. So it costs a little more than the H6, but it does so much more. If you've looked at it, or if you look it up, it looks like an audio mixer, like a regular audio mixer, but it has 4 XLR channels, so you can plug in, any kind of XLR mics. It has this really nice touchscreen. It's the nicest touchscreen I've seen on a device that's not a smartphone. It's super responsive and easy to use, and you can go into each of those channels and adjust all the levels and make sure everything sounds perfect for that voice, for that specific microphone. And of course, each channel has its own volume slider. And then it also has an input for a computer, so you can play audio via USB. It has a regular auxiliary input, so you can plug in a phone or another computer there. And it even has a Bluetooth input, so you can Bluetooth connect a phone or a computer and play music or whatever, but you could also bring in phone calls or Skype and FaceTime calls, which is pretty crazy, because having set up multiple podcast studios for digital media programs in the past and trying to put my own together, those are the kinds of things that are really hard to do and usually require a ton of extra equipment. And this one little board has all that built into it. It's also got sound pads, so you can add in sound effects or jingles or clips from shows, and it's super easy to customize them. I still have some of the default ones, so if I make a joke, it could go, yeah. And then the one that I added in addition to the theme song is the Inception sound, because I figure I'm going to use that at some point. But I'm not going to get annoying with sound effects. But you can use those for really cool things. So I mentioned, Heather and I did a really cool interview last week. If I wanted, I could load up a clip from that. I don't have it because I didn't do that yet, but I could load up a clip and say, we had a really great discussion about, using your time wisely. And then I could play the clip right here. I don't have to edit anything in, which is kind of incredible. So, and it records, you can record to your computer, or it just records to an onboard SD card. And then the whole machine outputs 14 channels to your computer. So when you save everything, it saves each thing independently. You can throw it in whatever software you're using and edit it all together. But it also saves just one single stereo file where everything's already mixed in. So here's what I'm getting at. And pardon me one second. Here's what I'm getting at is, for me, all that I need to do now to produce a podcast is literally just hit the record button, and then I can play the theme song. And then when the theme song's done, I can just fade it out. I can fade in my voice. We can talk about whatever we need to talk about. I could have multiple other people. Could even bring in someone who's not here via Skype or phone or whatever. And then when I'm done, I can just bring up the song, sign off, say goodbye, let the song finish playing, and then stop recording. And that's it. There's no editing. And then I just take that file and upload it to Anchor, and Anchor sends it out to all the podcast services, and I'm done. So for me, the reason I'm so excited about this is I've never had anything that simplifies or revolutionizes a workflow in this way. It's insane. And of course you can still edit everything, but the fact that for me, the way I'm doing my podcast currently, it's all real time. The podcast, to make it, there is no editing. So it's however long it takes me to sit here and record this is how long it takes to make the podcast. And then I just need to upload it, write the description and stuff, but that's pretty easy. And that blows my mind because that gets the technology entirely out of the way and it's just my ideas. So I'm only limited to how many things I want to talk about, or, if I can find an hour or two to sit down and have those talks or those conversations. So I'm only limited by my brain and my ideas, not by technology or post-production. And for me, for what I'm trying to do, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. It's amazing. And I really love it. So as much as I do tend to be a perfectionist and there's things I'd like to edit out when I have a brain fart or I make a mouth noise that's unpleasing, that's not what I want to do with this podcast. I know a few people who run podcasts where they go through and every time they make like a sound, they'll cut it out, and they'll, if something goes on too long, they'll repeat themselves and they'll do multiple takes. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's kind of how I approach more my YouTube videos. That's not how I want to approach this, because I want this to be genuine insight into what I'm thinking, feeling, and exploring, and I want the tools to get out of the way as much as possible. And I haven't found anything ever that helps you do that as much as this, and it blows my mind. So that was a really long, what sounded like an advertisement for the Rodecaster Pro, but I promise I paid full price for it, and it was even back ordered, so it took forever for me to finally get it. But oh my gosh, I love it. So that is my first actual investment that I have made in equipment for this podcast, which is great because it also tells me that, hey, you're serious about it and you want to keep doing it and you want it to be good. So I'm going to keep figuring this out over the next few weeks, but I'm excited about it. My goal is to eventually be able to do more than one podcast per week, and I think this will really help with that. But that was a 17-minute introduction into what I really want to talk about today, but it's a great way to talk about it because what I want to explore is the idea of things versus ideas, and what I and what we choose to focus on more. And if you heard the first episode of this podcast, in that I mentioned that I went through my YouTube channel and looked at all my videos and noticed that so many of them were focused on things. I'm very proud of the videos, but it's a lot of product reviews or tutorials, or, it's focused on products. And on a platform like YouTube, that works and that makes a lot of sense because you're beeping, and that works on YouTube because that's what people want. They want something really quick. They like things that are concrete. If you're trying to grow an audience or you're trying to build an audience, it makes a lot of sense to deal with things that are concrete. Here's a video about this camera lens, and then as people watch the video about the camera lens, maybe they like your style and your editing and your personality and your story. But it's going to be that thing, that knowledge, that product, whatever, that draws them in initially. It's harder to get traction with just sharing ideas and perspectives. Whereas I feel that's where podcasting really shines. And because of that, that's why I want to start the podcast, so I can sit here and I don't have to talk about a product or pitch anything. I can just explore an idea. And there are no ads, there are no sponsorships, so it's just whatever I want, which is kind of the same with the YouTube channel. Like, there's no ads on my channel either. And for me, I like both. I really do like products like that, which sounds so... I don't mean I just like products, but I mean, when it comes to like media stuff, I really like equipment and gear. I love cameras, I love lenses, I love all that stuff. And I like all these tools and what they let you do. But there's also so much more to explore, and it's so easy to get stuck down a rabbit hole where you're just constantly trying to get the best tool, and I have the best camera that gets the best image quality with the best lens, and then you don't actually make anything with it. And so I'm more interested now in the making of stuff, in the ideas, in expressing something and sharing something, and using whatever tools you have or whatever tools are right for you to do that is the thing that I'm most excited about right now. And so with that in mind, that's what I've been trying to kind of bring my YouTube channel towards. So like I just made a video yesterday that was all about Final Cut Pro tips. So it was about a product, but it was more like, you probably already have this product. Here are 5 ways that you can use it that you probably didn't know you could use it. So it's trying to get more value out of something you already have. The video before that was about how I think the YouTube algorithm, I think we're using it wrong, because as humans who are trying to like grow our channels, we're trying to think like this machine that was designed to think like humans. And in doing that, we're just sort of becoming a snake eating its own tail, which is more about an idea. And the next video I want to make is actually about this Rodecaster Pro, because it's so cool and it's relatively new. So there's not a lot of like real world videos about it yet, which is, another product review video. So I'm trying to strike a balance between things and ideas, and, 1 or 2 videos about ideas, a video about a thing, 1 or 2 videos about ideas about a thing. And I think that's going to be a good balance for me. But the reason I really wanted to get into that was because I noticed in my YouTube feed, my personal feed, here's my phone so I can look it up actually. In my personal feed, which is obviously dictated by the channels that I'm subscribed to and the channels that I watch, there's a really specific thing that happens. So I'm looking at it right now to see what's kind of popping up. There's the big thing right now that's popping up channel after channel is Canon just released the EOS RP, which is a lower budget mirrorless camera to complement their EOS R. And so my feed is just flooded with first impressions and reactions. People hate it. And, whether they've never even touched it, but they hate this camera. And so it's just all about this one camera. Oh my gosh, this one camera, one camera, one camera. And then Sony came out with the A6400 a while ago, which is like their like wannabe go-to vlogging camera. And so my feed is just filled up with, now here's our actual review of the Sony A6400, and it's literally like the same channels producing the same videos on the same day. Because I know they get sent the product and they're told by Sony, hey, don't talk about this until whatever date. And then on that date, your feed is just flooded with countless of the same video about the same product. And to me, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Even when it's from channels I like, I don't watch those videos because I don't care, because I don't feel like it's genuine. Because, this Rodecaster that I talked about, I discovered it because I was looking for something to suit my needs. I got it. I like it. If I choose to make a video about it, that's going to be me sharing something that I'm excited about with an audience because I think it provides them value. It's not because a company told me to. It's not because I feel any obligation. If there's something I hate about this thing, I'll just say what I don't like about it, because there's no obligation to, please a company that sent me something for free or whatever. And there's just so much of that on YouTube, but in a way it's a necessary evil. So I want to get into that, but it kind of suffocates the ideas, because it's just, everything has just become, an advertisement, and it's hard. Every once in a while, people on a channel will have their video where they need to sit down and be serious and go like, all right, guys, this is like, this is a real video where I'm going to share what I really think with you. And I'm like, why aren't all of your videos real videos where you're sharing what you think with me? Like, I don't need 8 levels of corporate barriers to your ideas. That's what the regular TV and movie industry does. YouTube is you sharing ideas with me, the end. And if you can effectively incorporate, sponsorships or whatever into that, that's great. But it should be about you and the ideas, not about the things. And it really doesn't, the thing part doesn't matter. And Matt Diavello came out with a video like a week or two ago called The Upgrade Cycle, or the Era of Upgrades. We're talking about, phone upgrades every single year, and people go crazy for these devices and the subtle design changes that companies make, so that even if the device itself isn't that different, when people pull it out of their pocket, you can see like, oh, your camera bump goes this way, or you have 2 lenses or whatever. That means it's the new one. I have the old one. Mine sucks. Yours is good. I feel bad. You're super cool. And that is just, it's so prevalent and it's so unnecessary. And that was something in my video yesterday about Final Cut Pro that I made sure to bring up, was that the main computer I've used for the last 5 years has been a 2013 13-inch MacBook Pro that is, just whatever baseline specs came from the store. It's not a souped up computer, and that's what I've done every video on my channel with. That's what I've done every podcast with. That's what I've done every lesson, every presentation, every workshop for work. Everything for the past 5 years has been done on that computer, and it works great. It sometimes will go a little slow here or there, but nothing crazy. There's even been 2 times over the past few years where I bought a new computer and used it for a few days and been like, oh, well, this isn't that different, so I'm going to return this and just keep the one I already had that is working great. So, it's so easy to get caught up in this is the newest, the greatest, the next, the best, when really it's not going to change anything, which is, I am excited about tools when they change things. So, for me, like the Rodecaster changes things. It streamlines a system. It gets technology out of the way. It frees up ideas and expression. So it's like a wonderful tool that gives me freedom. If they come out in 6 months with the Rodecaster Pro 2, I'm probably not going to care that much, because it's not going to change things that much for me unless it has some, I honestly couldn't think of anything that would make it better, really. Like, this one does everything that I want it to, and it's going to keep doing that even if a new version comes out in a year or 2 years or whatever. So that is kind of what I want people to focus on, or not, I shouldn't say what I want people to focus on. That is what I would prefer to focus on, which is ideas supplemented by things and how things help you communicate and express your ideas. And so I struggle with that because on my YouTube channel, because I hate ads, and so I turned off ads on my YouTube channel. If you don't run a YouTube channel or you've never dealt with YouTube ads, once you are able to put ads on your channel, you have the ability to tell YouTube what kind of ads you want, in terms of, do you want mid-roll ads? Do you want ads before your thing? Do you want people to be able to skip through your ads? And obviously, the more ads you have, the more money you'll get. Not that it's very much money, but a mid-roll ad pays out more than a skippable 5-second ad, which makes sense. People are going to, be stuck watching it in the middle of your video. So companies are going to pay YouTube more money to put that ad directly in front of a consumer. But the really frustrating part is you have absolutely no say into what those ads are for. And so, in my opinion, you end up working really hard on a video. Hopefully you care about it and you put it out there, and then some company throws their ad on it, which is great if it's a company that you like or that you use. But if it's a company that you don't like, don't use, don't care about, or maybe even dislike, they're still profiting off of your work, which I'm not crazy about. Plus, it just I hate clicking on a video and I have to sit through an ad and it's obnoxious. So personally, my personal decision was to just turn ads off because it wasn't worth it. If I ever reached a point where turning ads on would bring in a life-changing amount of income, then maybe we'd consider that, or maybe I would consider that. But I think I talked about this in the first podcast episode. I keep saying we and our, and I think it's because I am bringing in the listener as like a partner in crime in this. So I guess you're in this with me now. But anyway, if it would bring in a life-changing amount of money for us, then yeah, I would consider maybe turning on ads, but I also would consider not turning them on, because there are other ways to do that. A lot of people start up Patreons, which is great. I think that's one of the best compromises, is having a Patreon, because it's totally voluntary. It can be unobtrusive. It's very direct. And some people run their Patreons extremely well, where you actually get some really cool benefits for supporting a creator or a person on Patreon. The downside is then sometimes you end up having, they don't have ads on their channel, but they have a 4-minute Patreon promo for their own Patreon. So they have their own ad, which is better, I guess, but it still becomes kind of annoying. And then, of course, there's things like affiliate links for like Amazon and stuff, which are my personal favorite. I do still use those because I do talk about a lot of products, and I just put the links down in the video description. It says they're affiliate links. It doesn't change the price of the item for anybody. It's just if somebody clicks to that link and buys something, I get a small commission off of that. I never advertise that those links are there. It just says, hey, here's some affiliate links down in the description. And if people decide to do it, they decide to. If they don't, then they don't. And I think that works because it's super unobtrusive, but it works and it pays off. But there's this gray area where it comes to those videos like the Sony video and the Canon video where companies want to give you stuff and then you make a video about it. And what happened to me was the first time that happened was when my channel was really small, and I made a video about traveling with a boosted board. And the video was about how to handle traveling with the battery, because you're not allowed to check the battery of the boosted board. You have to detach it, carry it carry it on the plane with you, and then, check the board into the luggage compartment. And I made a video that showed how to detach the battery, talked about the different requirements, because some of the extended range batteries are actually too big to carry on. Like they have too much power or whatever the requirement is, and the FAA won't let you take those on a plane. And in the video, I talked about, I don't even know if I did talk about it. Yeah, I just showed a little bag that I had found on Amazon to carry the boosted board. And I was like, I'm putting the board in this bag and using it. And there was some footage of the bag. And then even though my channel was super small, I actually remember specifically, I had 260 subscribers at the time. The owner of that company that made that bag found the video and sent me an email saying, hey, like, really appreciate this. We're working on a version 2 of the bag. Would you want to try it out, check it out? And I talked to him a little bit, and he turned out to be this super cool guy who's he runs this small company. He's trying to make it better and better. And it was really neat to hear his input. So he sent me a bag and he was like, yeah, make a video about it or don't, if you don't want to. Like, there were no guidelines. Like, you have to say this, you have to mention that. And I even asked, like, oh, if I made a video, is there anything you really want me to focus on? He was like, no, just make a video. I was like, okay. And I really ended up liking the new version of it. It's still my favorite boosted board bag. So I made a video about that. He liked it. And since then he sent me a couple other products. Some I haven't made videos for, some I've just like offered feedback for. Some I've even had some of my students work with to do like promotional photos for, which is really, really cool. So that to me was a great partnership, because I did receive a product for free that I made a video about, but it was very clear between me and the company that the video was going to be that, one, I could choose not to make a video in the first place, and that was fine. And if I did choose to make a video, it could be whatever I want. Maybe the whole video focuses on the product. Maybe it just shows up in a second, whatever it is, and I could give whatever opinions I want. And of course, the rules and the laws are that I have to say specifically in the video that the thing was provided for free. So of course I did all that. But I really like that, because not only did I like the company, not only did I like the product, but it was an organic relationship, and it started with something that I was using anyway. So it wasn't like, like I really enjoy right now. I'm drinking a Coke Zero, which is not sponsored, but I really like Coke Zero and Diet Coke. I really don't like Diet Pepsi that much. And if it'd be like if they suddenly approached me and were like, hey, we'll give you a ton of Pepsi to talk about Diet Pepsi instead of Coke. That I don't feel would work, because I don't actually like that product. So, and I don't use it, and I haven't used it, and I don't want to do that kind of thing. And I think that ends up happening a lot. When the Canon EOS R came out, their first mirrorless camera, it popped up on so many different channels where the people on those channels, I know for a fact, don't use Canon cameras. But Canon sent out these cameras, and suddenly all these people were like, oh yeah, dude, this Canon camera's great. And then they never used it again in other videos. I'm like, was it really great because you're not actually using it. You just kind of use it for the one video that I feel like you were obligated to make. And that's what drives me crazy, because that is so not genuine. And like, who is, sorry, I have a lot of issues with those kinds of things. And so I've been trying to be very intentional. Last summer, I even told the company that makes the boosted board bags that if they wanted to send me more bags, I'd be happy to help and offer feedback, or even, help out with some like promotional photos for fun or whatever. But that I probably wasn't going to do any more videos just because I didn't want to focus on product videos. And really the only other company so far that I've done anything like that with is Polar Pro, which again, they reached out to me, I think before I even had 1,000 subscribers, or right around that point. And they just offered, I forget what the first thing was they offered. It was just this guy from Polar Pro who's super nice, just sent me an email and said like, hey, we're making, I think it must have been their ND filters for phones. They came up with this really cool system for ND filters for mobile phones. So you can really like get some cool looking stuff with your mobile phone. And they just asked if I wanted to try it out. And it was kind of the same thing. It was very human, very organic. They made it super clear that I didn't even have to make a video about it. If I wanted to, I could say whatever I wanted, good or bad. They even specifically said, like, please, if you have anything negative, like, definitely include it, because it looks bad. They were worried about, like, we don't want to just send out our products and have glowing reviews, because that makes it seem not genuine. Like, we want your honest feedback. And not only did I really like that, and not only did I actually like the product, but Polar Pro specifically, and this might be why they reached out to me, because I think I mentioned another thing, but I had used their stuff for a long time before, because they make a lot of really cool accessories for drones. And so like I have their drone ND filters and like this handle thing that turns the DJI Mavic into like a gimbal. Like basically it's not a drone anymore. You hand hold it. Now you have like this really smooth gimbal. And they make all these cool, really, really nice, relatively affordable accessories and things. So not only did I like the product, but I liked the way the company approached me and handled it. I liked our relationship we built. And again, theirs was stuff I had already spent a ton of money of my own way before they ever knew who I was on their things, because I was actually using it. And so that felt really appropriate to turn into, like a sponsored video where I just do a tutorial or a review, and along the way explain that, hey, these things were provided to me for free. And I did a couple of videos like that for Polar Pro. They gave me these really nice ND filters, which that was the first time I really, really love those filters. And I think they retail for about $200 a piece. And they sent me 3 of them, and 3 different ones. And I would 100% buy those filters, but I do not have the money to buy $200 ND filters. So like if I had the money, I would buy them, but I don't have the money. So that was kind of a weird thing where like, I really did love the product and believe in it, but I couldn't afford it on my own. And that was kind of cool though, because I was just really neat, and I still use them all the time. They're totally changed the way I do a lot of landscape photography, because I can get crazy shallow depth of field in super bright situations, and I love it. There's like an ND1000 filter that's unbelievable. They don't get fingerprints or scratches or smudges or water on it. Like they're really good filters. So, so that was really the only other company I've done anything like that with. Point being, both Polar Pro and Board Bag, the boosted board company, were very organic to me and very genuine. And so even though it was very much like pitching a product, that wasn't why I was making the video. Like had I bought the thing on my own, like this Rodecaster, I would still have wanted to talk about it because I thought they were cool tools. And that's kind of the important thing. And I bring that up, 40 minutes into this podcast because I have my email open and I get a ton of these emails, several per week from these companies. Here's an example of one that I pulled out of my trash can folder, where a lot of them are from China. So the English is a little funky, but it usually says like, hey, we want to collaborate with you. And it says, hi there, I'm Work With Company, a premium tech accessories company offering custom and official brand cases and skins. We recently launched our Apple Watch bands and are currently looking for awesome content creators and curators such as yourself to partner on reviewing the Apple Watch band product offerings. What sets our product apart from our competitors is that customers are able to customize their bands with an image upload onto their customizer. If you're not interested, we also offer custom licensed design on cases skins for all kinds of electronics, iPhone, MacBook, PS4, Xbox, to name a few. Let me know if you're interested and feel free to send over your media kit. I look forward to hearing from you. And I get those that's actually more of an interesting one where I was like, that actually sounds kind of cool. Like you're a company that does custom phone cases. But I still said thank you, but no thank you. And I send all of them a very polite, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. It sounds like your service is super unique and I really like the idea, but I'm currently not creating any sponsored videos, so I'll pass on the offer. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And so I send them a very polite thanks, but no thanks. And then some of the other ones, though, a lot of them will be like, hi, we sell some cheap crap on Amazon. Here's a code where you buy the thing and then we'll refund you and then you do a review about it. Do you want like this cheap microphone or this cheap, case for something or a crappy whatever? And it's all just stuff that like I would never buy and stuff that's probably not very good. And no, I'm not interested. And so I just say no thanks. But those emails come through a lot. And it scares me because I wonder how many people get those. I don't think you have to have, my channel's still not very big. And I don't think you need to have a huge channel before you start getting those kinds of emails and offers from companies. And if you're not prepared to handle it, or maybe especially if you're younger, like a kid with a YouTube channel, you might want to jump on those things because it makes you feel very official to like, oh, I got a brand deal. But there's really like, you're pitching some thing that might not be a great product, and maybe they are great products, like I kind of don't mean to trash the companies, but integrity is worth something, and I think it's worth hanging on to. And I think that when most people hopefully started their channels, that's not what they signed up for, was to sell cheap junk that probably doesn't work that well, but to share an idea and to express themselves and to create something and to collaborate and to contribute something to the greater world around them. At least that's what I hope. And so that in dealing with things versus ideas, I'm much more interested in ideas than things. And it's hard because I really do love things, as I mentioned, but I think here's an idea of the best example. So for example, there's a YouTube channel that I love and I highly recommend by a guy from Australia or maybe New Zealand. I hope I'm not mixing those up. And his name is Luke Towan, and he does small scale miniatures, and he makes these amazing dioramas and these incredible miniatures that he spends a ton of time on. He's one of the very few people that I am member of his Patreon because he really deserves it. And he does a great behind the scenes of all his videos, and he's super interactive with the community. But he creates these incredible videos, and it's all about the process. And he does goofy things. He'll always try new lighting effects and camera angles and Adobe After Effects things, but it doesn't really go into the process. And he focuses on his idea of this is the techniques and the things that I'm using to, make these scale models. But I'm so interested in the tools that he's using. So when he says like, hey, here's this motorized airbrush paint shaker, or here's a little cutter thing that I'm using for this type of wood, or here's the tripod or the light that I use, I'm really interested in that. He doesn't talk about this stuff very much. He just keeps making things, sharing his idea over and over again. And once you see how he's sharing his idea, at least for me, I became naturally interested in how he was doing that. And so every once in a while, if he steps back and goes, hey, this is a tool that I use, I find that really interesting. I don't find it to be like an ad or a sponsored thing or whatever. It's just like, oh, what tool are you using to do that? And, I think another great example was Binging with Babish, the YouTube channel about food from TV shows and movies. He blew up last year and got like crazy. His channel went insane. but his videos are terrific. And I think it was around when he hit 1 million subscribers, he did a behind the scenes video, which was really cool. So up until then, all his videos had just been him making this food. And then finally he did a video that was how he films those videos. And it showed like his kitchen setup, or just his apartment at the time, and how he had everything arranged, and the camera that he used, and the lights that he was using, and the microphone that he did his voiceover on. And it was so interesting to see how he had assembled these specific tools to meet his needs. And some of them were, of course, bought specifically for the thing, but some of them were just the thing that he already had lying around when he started the channel. And that, to me, I'm interested in how things support ideas, not just the things themselves, I guess, is kind of what it comes down to. And it's hard to kind of deal with that in today's world of YouTube. And it's so funny because this morning I got an email that kind of like threw a whole wrench in this thing, which it was an email from Artlist, which is a music licensing website. And what did they say? Here we go. It said, they were super quick to reply and like really friendly, which is always nice. I don't know where the original one is. Here it is. They basically just said, hi, I'm from Artlist, a music licensing company. We're thrilled to see you using our music in your videos. We'd like to talk to you about a partner link, which is an affiliate link you can share on your videos and social media, where you will earn $20 per sign up and your subscribers will get 2 extra months for free. Let me know if you're interested. And I was like, oh gosh, I keep saying I don't want to do anything sponsored, but here was the catch. I do like affiliate links because, as I mentioned, they're only beneficial. I get a little bit of money for referring someone. It doesn't change the price of the product to anyone. In this case, they would actually get a couple more months for their subscription, not their prescription. And most importantly, Artlist was the very first music licensing service that I signed up for. I heard about it on Matt Johnson's YouTube channel, he does a lot of wedding photography and wedding cinematography, but he does great tutorials and great info on drones. And he's the one that I learned that I needed to get my Part 107 FAA drone license and great stuff. And he talked about Artlist, and Artlist is like $200 a year. And then you get access to their library of songs. And now there's a bunch of other services that do the same, like Epidemic Sound and some others. And I don't know which one was first, but Artlist was just the first one I had found, and I started using it a lot. And eventually I got an Epidemic Sounds subscription as well. And between those two sites, there's a lot you can find. I think they're pretty cool. They solve all the problems with royalty-free music on YouTube, because if you don't use royalty-free music, things go bad really, really fast. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any of those issues in any of my videos when I started my channel. So even when I had like 4 subscribers, I still paid for my Artlist subscription and have used it ever since. And so for me, I decided that I would accept their partner offer because it's just an affiliate link. I don't have to make a video. I don't have to do any ads about it. I already have a link in my description that says my music is from Artlist and Epidemic Sound, because people always ask in the comments, like, hey, where's your music? Where's your music? So I just put that in there, like, whatever song you're hearing, it came from one of these 2 services. And so why not? Like, I'd be happy to get $20 if people click that link and sign up. And then because they came from me, get 2 extra months for free. So that is a win-win situation that, again, comes from a company and a product that I was using anyway. So Artlist was another great tool because, there are lots of other free royalty-free music sites out there, but you quickly burn through those, which even before starting a channel, I pretty much burned through them in other like work-related projects. And then you start hearing those songs everywhere. And the YouTube music library is pretty terrific. You can get good stuff there. That can hold you over for a long time. And then there's SoundCloud. I haven't gotten much off there, but I know Heather's gotten a lot of her stuff off SoundCloud and has found some really has actually like built relationships with some of the music creators on SoundCloud to get music for her videos for free, that's licensed for free. But I just want to make sure, that I just didn't even want to have to worry about anything related to copyright. And I didn't want to just have the same songs that I was hearing everywhere. So that's why it made sense for me to sign up for a subscription. Plus, honestly, like I remember back in the day, it used to be like over $100 to license one song. And so $200 a year for unlimited seemed magical, but I had never heard of any of these services at the time. So again, now this sounds like an ad, but it's not. It's just sort of, it's just kind of me in real time dealing with this struggle where I want to create things that are valuable and meaningful. And for me, as much as a video or whatever about a product, whether it's sponsored or not, could serve a purpose and could be helpful to somebody, sharing an idea will probably last a lot longer because, things are very temporary, but ideas can definitely leave much more of a long-lasting legacy. And I am much more interested in how things can act as tools to enable and support and promote the ideas rather than just being about themselves. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. I don't know if you made it 51 minutes into this discussion, but these have sort of been things that have been bouncing around in my head for the last week and trying to figure it out. It was just sort of funny when the art list email showed up this morning because I was like, oh my gosh, here's this thing. And then, you want to stick to your integrity. You want to make sure the decisions you make are correct. I don't want to talk about, I hate ads. Oh, here, go to this service and sign up. But, I just want to make sure that there's clear intention and purpose behind everything. And for me, something like Artlist has enabled my ideas for the past 2 years. So if they want to work on some kind of, affiliate partnership together, I'm cool with that. Whereas some random company I've never used who approaches me and says like, hey, do you want to use this product that's, just something you may or may not like? I'm not that interested in it because that's not something that's already been enabling and adding value to my ideas. Because the most important thing to me when it comes to something like YouTube or podcasting or anything is that we are able to make what we want to make. And in a world where a lot of people are now making their full-time living off of the content that they create, that's different because they need to sometimes adapt and please an advertiser, but that's just nothing. That just holds no interest to me whatsoever. I just want to create whatever I want to make. And luckily, I don't want to make anything crazy controversial or offensive, but I want to feel free to share ideas and use tools that I want to use and just do things my own way. And again, use products as tools, not as a means to an end to earn another paycheck or get another sponsorship or whatever. And so I don't know. The thing that initially started this off was when those new cameras were coming out. I think this was really the Sony a6400. There not only were a bunch of first impression videos, but apparently Sony, which all the camera companies do, they fly a bunch of press and media out to their events where they release the cameras, and then they give, I don't know if these are ones that the people actually get to keep or if they have to return them or if it's a combination depending on who it is, but they at least equip everyone with the new thing that came out. And they usually take them on these really cool journeys. So Canon will sometimes take journalists and influencers to Hawaii, and they'll go out into the Hawaiian jungle and they'll use a new camera and see how the photos work, how the videos come out. And Sony did a similar thing with the a6400 where they took everyone on a cruise to Catalina. So they flew a lot of people out from, all over the world and all over the country to Catalina, and they were on a cruise. And then what I saw just as a viewer was my feed was just for 2 days obliterated with these videos about Sony a6400, Sony, oh my gosh. And then every time I clicked on a video, it was the same freaking thing of these people on a boat. It was just from a different angle. And then every video was oh, look, I'm here and here's this other YouTuber and this other YouTuber. And I was just what are we doing? why are we watching this? Like I remember YouTube as being a place for creative expression and for a direct connection with an audience and for freedom to share ideas. And like now you guys got a boat ride and you're advertising for a multi-billion-dollar corporation because of it. Like step back and think about it for a second. And that I feel like maybe I went off the rails there, but it's such a short-term gain for not a lot of long-term satisfaction, in my opinion. So I guess to kind of wrap up my meandering discussion, whatever anybody chooses to do is their own business 100%. What I just want to make sure is that people have a thought and a justification. And if a company approaches you for something, don't just say yes automatically because you can. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to hold out for your integrity, and it's okay. I know Tony and Chelsea Northrup, who do a lot of photo videos on YouTube, and they also have a podcast. They're terrific. They specifically don't do any sponsored things whatsoever. They buy every product just because they want to make sure it's very clear that whatever opinions they provide are their own 100%. And so whatever you're doing to set up your own stuff, just have those guidelines, have those things in mind. So maybe you don't want to do any sponsored stuff. Maybe you want to make sure that you only do sponsored things when it's products you actually believe in. I hope at least that's the bare minimum for everybody. But, if a company's asking you to do something, make sure that it could be objective. Make sure that you can say negative things. Make sure that, if they send you a thing and you absolutely hate it, that you don't have to even do anything with it. Maybe you just would prefer to just not make a video about it rather than, just make a negative video for no reason about this thing. Maybe just protect yourself. Don't say yes just because someone wants you to buy something from their Amazon store or, they think that you're going to get something for free. Like you are worth a lot more than one simple product deal or one simple sponsored video. So maintaining integrity is kind of key. And it's something that I believe in and value a lot. So I hope there was something in there that was beneficial or at least interesting to kind of pick out. I'm really excited because I'm recording this right now. And honestly, I think I will be able to have this uploaded literally within the next 10 minutes, which is super cool. Just however long Anchor takes to upload. So as I wrap this up, I'm going to use my new favorite tool to share my ideas and just end this show on the Rodecaster and then just see how it works to put the memory card in the computer, press upload, and share it with the world. So I hope this was interesting. I hope you guys are having a great week. I hope you have a terrific week. And I really, really look forward to exploring some more ideas, sharing some cool stuff with you next week. Feel free to reach out to me at SoDarnTom on Twitter and Instagram, or of course, leave a comment on the YouTube channel or go to enthusiasmproject.com and you can send me an email, especially if you have any ideas, podcast related things or stuff you want me to talk about or just stuff you want to share. I'd really, really love to hear from you. So thanks so much again. I hope you have a terrific rest of your day and I'll see you or talk at you again next week.